Let's go.
Get your copy of Fire. It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
Always trust everyone to be themselves, but trust in the fact that you can see them well. I mean, so it's like, trust. It takes too much energy to not trust someone. I mean, it takes too much energy. You always gotta stay 2 steps ahead of them or whatever. Right. But trust them to be them.
Right. To be themselves.
Trust a snake to bite you. Right. Trust a lion to laugh. Trust a thief to steal from you. Like, trust them to be them. Too. But know them when you see them.
Peace. This is the enemy's public. I am Bro.Nasir. Peace to my brother Big Dog Philly OG. Peace to my sister, the true daughter of darkness. Thanks for tapping in. This afternoon, first I like, to hope that everyone's having a good afternoon. Hope everybody's safe and good health. And speaking of health, today's program is going to be featuring some information from Dr. Sebi and Dr. Bobby Price and others. It's going to be about health, GMO foods, and what GMO foods do to the people. And we're going to get some information from Dr. Bobby Price, Dr. Sebi, and others. But before I do that, I want to play a few beats, let people come in real quick. Just 2, and then I'll get to the subject matter. Peace to my brother Relentless. Thanks for tapping in. Salute, brother. Mozart meets hip hop. This is what I call it. The next beat. Greetings to Sharon Walker. Thanks for coming through. Thanks for tapping in, sis. I'm going to abbreviate this beat and get to the subject matter. Again, we're going to listen to some footage. Some news, actually, is some news footage of Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi, what he was doing was against everything that the Food and Drug Administration was against. A lot of foods that we eat those that are not grown natural or stuff that's processed in a factory, they have preservatives in them for shelf life because man is greedy and they don't want to give us anything that's going to suffice us with our health. It's all about their wealth, not about our health. And they don't want to waste anything. So, and not thinking about the damage and the health issues and the nutritional value of some of the things that we consume as food. They'll use a process that's not necessarily good for anybody. So Dr. Sebi was warned actually to not reveal some of the things that he knew that would be of value, that would actually cut into the money of some of these manufacturers. He got in a little trouble, before he transitioned. He got into some trouble because he was doing things that they say he was lying about, but he went into court, proved himself, and he won. He actually won when he brought in people that can actually give their testimony of what he's done for them. And this enemy don't like that. They don't like that. Give me 1 second while I go back up and put my overlay on. And then we'll get to the subject matter. Let me just share my screen real quick. People are just catching on to what Dr. Sebi was doing, mainstream anyway. A lot of us knew. That's why a lot of us, we would rather get our news from and our information from each other. I don't necessarily agree that we should be getting it from some of those who are delivering the information, but for the most part, we get our information from each other.
My parting word would be this: make sure that whenever you put something in your mouth, that something is going to complement you and that it's going to serve you well. It's going to support your nervous system. Because if you don't, you will find yourself stressed. Not only are you going to find reasons to dislike me, you're going to dislike yourself.
A juicy, sizzling steak made by computer.
This is science meat. FDA approved science meat, of course.
That's great.
Look at who was testing the science meat. I'm going to go back a little bit. Look at who was testing the science meat.
This is science meat. FDA approved science meat, of course.
No other than Bill Gates. Now, what is a man who is into computers and information technology has to do with foods? The same reason he has something to do with, vaccines and everything. So, Bill Gates. So you know who's behind the GMO foods.
That's great.
When I told my mama that I had cured my 13 AIDS patient, she said, they're gonna get you.
Meet Dr. Sebi, aka Alfredo Bowman, the herbal healing hero with a twist. A guy with zero formal education in medicine, learning the ropes of traditional healing from his grandma. No tech.
Salute to Hurricane JW. Thanks for tapping in, brother.
Textbooks, no classrooms, just good old granny's wisdom.
Why do we go to see the doctor to give us the chemical when the Bible says the herbs are for the healing? Africa, way over here, we put America. What happened between hair and hair? A lot happened. You see, when we were hair, without the mathematics, without the ABC, without the sciences, we had something to our advantage that we no longer have here. We are blind hair. Hair we weren't. We were seeing. Why? Because God provided us with everything we needed here. And none of it was comfrey or rice and beans. There were no tofu. There were no soy there. There were no cows. And there were no hogs, no chicken. There were no flour. Those things didn't come from Africa. You see, rice and beans and flour and cheese and meat and the starch that you eat, they all came from right here, from a laboratory. Now, for us to eat, you have to have the understanding of biochemistry. But when we were here, we didn't have to know anything about biochemistry. Why? Because God doesn't make poison.
Dr. Sebi burst onto the alternative medicine scene with claims that would make your average doctor spit out their morning coffee. His secret sauce? Conquering various diseases by fighting the body's mucus monsters with nothing but a diet straight out of a vegan's fantasy. Raw fruits, veggies, grains, and nuts.
That the great Hippocrates used herbs to cure disease. This man was curing every disease in Greece 365 years before Christ was even born. If Jesus cured with herbs, Hippocrates cured with herbs, and God said the herbs, then what's up? Why aren't we curing with herbs today?
According to our mucus-busting guru, the path to pristine health is paved with the stuff most people shove to the side of their plates. Dr. Sebi's approach was less about popping pills and more about loading up on that green goodness. So, if you're ever feeling under the weather, maybe skip the pharmacy and check the veggie aisle in the supermarket first. Dr. Sebi was quite the character, preaching a life free from processed munchies, animal treats, and those tricky hybrid fruits and veggies. Skeptics tossed around words like grifter and fraud, but his fans painted him as a storytelling wizard with a knack for selling. Officially, he wasn't a doc by the standards of white coats and diplomas, but he swore by his personal health comeback story, beating mental illness, impotence, and obesity with his herbal and dietary regimen. His laundry list of ailments he claimed to kick the curb was impressive. AIDS, cancer, diabetes, and even turning the blind to see, among others. Despite the grand claims, the science squad wasn't cheering, pointing out the lack of proof and cautioning that ditching traditional medicine for Sebi salad could be a risky recipe. Dr. Sebi was diagnosed by a Mexican herbalist with asthma, diabetes, impotence, and visual impairment. He was literally handed a death sentence. This led him to begin experimenting on himself with different herbs and fasting methods. Not only did he heal himself, but he also started recommending the treatments to people around him.
I was 291 pounds. Now I only weigh 120. That's all I weigh, 120 pounds. And trust me, I haven't felt this good in my whole entire life.
Dr. Sebi's food therapy was based on an alkaline plant-based diet and lots of natural supplements. It's intended to alkalize the body by reducing supposed disease-causing mucus so that your body is better equipped to increase its disease protection barrier and flush toxic waste, according to its claims. Dr. Sebi believed that mucus and acidity cause disease. He held that eating certain foods and avoiding others could detoxify the body, achieving an alkaline state that could reduce the risk and effects of disease. Dr. Sebi dedicated 30 years to discovering the vast healing potential of plants and herbs that are consistent with a life aligned with nature. And that became the beginning of what is known today as the Dr. Sebi diet. The diet consists of a specific list of approved vegetables, fruits, grains, nuts.
Now, this is barely prescribed to us and for us when we go to the doctors. They don't say that we should eat healthier, we should eat less, which is most important. Eat healthier and eat less. Because if we are working our body too much and our digestive system too much, you're putting food on top of food, and we don't allow the other food to digest and exit our body and the food to distribute what it needs to distribute to parts of our body. The food actually spoils in our body, and that's what causes stomach aches, nausea, sickness, and it also causes obesity because we don't give it enough time to exit our body. So people telling us to eat 3 meals a day, they're telling us wrong. Unless you're eating very little. And if you're eating a full course meal 3 times a day, you're eating too much.
Nuts, seeds, oils, and herbs. As animal products are not permitted, Dr. Sebi's diet is considered plant-based. Most foods on his diet are low in calories, except for nuts, seeds, avocados, and oils. Therefore, even if you ate a large volume of approved foods, it's unlikely that it would result in a surplus of calories and lead to weight gain.
Exactly, Hurricane JW. Left Eye was speaking about Dr. Sebi a lot. And also, she was in Honduras when she, passed away, where Dr. Sebi was in Honduras.
According to Dr. Sebi's nutritional guidelines, there are key rules one must follow when adopting a strict diet. You must only eat foods listed on a nutritional guide, drink 1 gallon of water per day, take Dr. Sebi's supplements an hour before medications, never consume animal products, and no alcohol is allowed. Avoid wheat products and only consume natural growing grains. Avoid using a microwave to prevent killing your food. And lastly, avoid canned or seedless fruits.
Distilled water to cook with, not to drink, to cook with. Because distilled water has the pH of 7. It will rob you of your minerals. To drink the water, the glacier is good. Perrier is good. Anything that is done by Mother Nature. If the alkalinity is being obtained through a process of osmosis, it's no good. It will injure you because they have done it mechanically. You want nature to do it.
Dr. Sebi's diet involves eating vegetables like avocado, kale, bell peppers, and wild arugula. A diet rich in vegetables and fruits can lower blood pressure, reduce the risk of heart disease and stroke, prevent some types of cancer, lower the risk of eye and digestive problems, and have a positive effect on blood sugar, which can help keep appetite in check. He also made sure to consume lots of fruits. These include apples, bananas, dates, and Seville oranges. Fruits supply dietary fiber, and fiber intake is linked to lower incidence of cardiovascular disease and obesity. Fruits also supply vitamins and minerals to the diet and are sources of phytochemicals that function as antioxidants, phytoestrogens, and anti-inflammatory agents. Eating 1 medium apple a day may help lower blood pressure, cholesterol, and inflammation, all of which support a healthy heart. This lends more credence to the saying, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away." Bananas are a rich source of potassium and vitamin B6, while oranges are packed with vitamin C, folate, and potassium. When eaten regularly, these 2 fruits provide a wide range of nutrients that are essential for maintaining good health. Grains like rye, wild rice, and quinoa constitute an addition to Dr. Sebi's diet. One of the biggest health benefits to whole grains is that they lower your risk of heart disease, which is the leading cause of death worldwide. The fiber in whole grains can support healthy digestion in various ways. First, fiber helps give bulk to stools and lowers the risk of constipation. Second, some types of fiber in grains act as prebiotics. This means they help feed your beneficial gut bacteria, which are important for digestive health. Another staple in his diet is nuts and seeds, including hemp, raw sesame seeds, and walnuts. Nuts and seeds are good sources of protein, healthy fats, fiber, vitamins, and minerals. They also regulate body weight as their fats are not fully absorbed, and they regulate food intake. Nuts and seeds contain unsaturated fats and other nutrients that provide protective effects against heart disease and diabetes. Herbal teas, including chamomile, fennel, and ginger varieties, aren't left out of his diet. Numerous studies have shown that a variety of teas may boost your immune system, fight off inflammation, and even ward off cancer and heart disease. While some brews provide more health advantages than others, there's plenty of evidence that regularly drinking herbal teas can have a lasting impact on one's wellness. Dr. Sebi was all about that sea moss life, swearing it was the secret potion keeping him spry and lively. This oceanic wonder was like a superhero for the immune system, packed with potassium chloride, omega-3s, and chlorophyll to zap inflammation and mucus faster than you can say sniffle. With its virus fighting powers and microbe munching abilities, sea moss was basically a bodyguard against bugs. And get this, there's this epic footage of Dr. Sebi at the grand age of 80-something, hitting the deck like he's in a kindergarten tumbling class, popping back up on his knees with the ease of a kid. His secret? Good old sea moss. Makes you think, right? There are folks half his age who might groan just picking up the remote. Dr. Sebi's message was clear. Sea moss for the win.
Sea moss have me doing things every morning like this. That's sea moss. Sea moss have me falling on my knees every morning to check them. And if they hurt, then something is wrong. Sea moss is alive. Sea moss is natural. Sea moss has potassium iodide and potassium bromide. It has natural silica. That's why my bones, I could crawl on my knees, because sea moss is the best thing yet. Sea moss, man, the best I ever had.
The alkaline electric diet is foods that create the least amount of mucus. When there's mucus buildup, that's when you experience inflammation. And with inflammation, the disease shows up in different ways, whether it's a heart condition, diabetes, arthritis, or asthma. So, because of that, we try to have people eat foods that will not create mucus, that will have them going to the restroom and eliminating everything that their body doesn't need anymore.
Exactly. Sea moss, I have to. I want my bones strong. I want my knees.
Which is the purpose of food altogether? Nutrition. Now, we can't be human consumption machines and eat all day. Food is for nutrition. I've always said you have a choice. Your pantry and your refrigerator can be your medicine cabinet, or they can be the nail in your coffin.
Dr. Sebi's diet has stirred up its share of controversy, mainly due to its super tight leash on what you can and can't eat. This regimen puts a big red stop sign on a whole parade of foods. We're talking no animal products, no wheat, no beans, lentils, and a whole bunch of fruits and veggies are off the menu. It's so picky, it's like playing dietary roulette. Cherry and plum tomatoes make the cut, but beefsteak and Roma, forget about it. The catch? Sticking to such a Spartan diet could turn mealtime into a chore, sparking a less than rosy view of food. After all, who wants to be given the side eye by a plate of forbidden spaghetti? Dr. Sebi wasn't just about
Yes, sir, Hurricane JW. Yes, sir.
Whipping up herbal concoctions. He was all in on the self-love and emotional freedom train, too. The man who touted the wonders of herbs also believed in the power of a healthy mind for a healthy body vibe. Sure, the science folks didn't exactly line up to back his alkaline diet with hard evidence, but that didn't stop many followers' lifestyle from singing praises about shedding pounds, detoxing their systems, and even bidding adieu to pesky chronic ailments, all thanks to sticking with Dr. Sebi's green eating plan. It turns out that swapping out the processed, sugar-packed Western diet for Sebi's plant-based paradise did wonders for many, leading to better health and lighter scales. Vegan.
The Western world don't like this because it doesn't make money. It makes money, but it doesn't make as much money as those aisles with the cans and the processed foods with the preservatives in them and the funny words that if you read. If you're drinking water and you read the ingredients, if it says anything other than water, you're not drinking pure water. But that's the order of the day when we go into a so-called supermarket.
And vegetarian circles, they're practically throwing high fives over his recipes and nutritional wisdom, now packaged as trendy ebooks and online courses by the wellness crowd. And talk about star power. Dr. Sebi's client list reads like a Hollywood who's who, with big names like Michael Jackson, Lisa Left Eye Lopes, Erykah Badu, Eddie Murphy, and John Travolta all reportedly turning to him for a sprinkle of his holistic magic. Would you try this diet, or have you tried this diet before? Please leave your comments down below.
Now, that's a lot for all these people to actually turn to him to get healthy. Now, we're going to go to the 6 biggest secrets they're keeping from us. There's always
This video probably won't get seen by most people, but this is important.
This is Dr. Sebi and Dr. Bobby Price.
And so here it goes. If you see it, you see it.
The man known as Dr. Sebi claims to have found a cure for several life-threatening diseases. Too good to be true? Well, you be the judge.
We were also hoodwinked by our brothers that was trained by those people.
There is a group of people who do not want everyone to be here.
We have cures for a lot of things, but that's not what keeps America going.
There are natural remedies the drug companies and the food industry does not want you to know about. Now think about this. Let's assume that you own a food company. You sell food, okay? You want to sell more food because that's how you make more money. The food industry does not want the message, eat less, exercise more. Why? Because eating less means people consume less food. So it's the common thread in all of this seems to be money. It's all about money. If everyone in America was healthy, the drug industry would be out of business. There are ingredients being put in food right now that make you hungry. There are ingredients that are being put in food right now that make you addicted to the food. There are ingredients that are being put in food right now that make you fat. There are natural cures that are not drugs that absolutely work.
Is the population going to get so big that...
See, the foods that we eat in the Western world has addictive drugs in it, addictive sugars in it, and it has the people strung out on food. Our diets, the key word is die in our diets.
Feeding everybody and maintaining the environment is going to be impossible. The one that has gone better than I would have expected 5 years ago is this work to make what's called artificial meat.
Do you eat it as well, or do you like it?
Absolutely.
So who's the real problem here? Is it Sebi, or is it some pharmaceutical company that is willing to exploit it?
Anything that interferes with their omnipotent need to own and control everything is a danger and will be eliminated.
We've been taught there's a pill for every ill.
The owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
Indeed.
Soursop leaves are very medicinal. They're loaded with phytonutrients, okay? Phytonutrients like flavonoids, saponins, alkaloids, coumarins, terpenoids, tannins, all of these things that are literally fighting machines inside of your body. These soursop leaves are actually really good for insomnia. So if you're having problems falling asleep or staying asleep, they're good for that as well too. So drinking the tea. They're also good for diabetes as well too. And they regulate the blood sugar and they help with the spikes, especially those post-meal spikes that people quite often encounter as well too. So soursop leaf is really good for that as well. They're also good for protecting the kidneys as well too, which is hugely important, especially for diabetics.
Let's dive deeper and dish out 8 fabulous foods with the power to tackle some serious health dramas. Stay tuned because this menu might just save your life. Soursop leaves.
People have identified soursop, as you know, as a miracle drug. They said no matter what complaint you have, drink, whether it's soursop leaf, you boil it, whether it's the fruit.
I love the soursop with the aloe water. I love drinking the soursop aloe vera water.
Fruit you eat, no matter what part soursop is identified. 2 scientists from MIT told me there's no if and but. This has been scientifically proven. Make sure you eat as much of it. I pack my refrigerator with it. Wherever I get it, I take it.
Discover the wonders of soursop leaves, nature's little green superheroes. In today's world, where everyone is jumping on the natural remedies bandwagon, soursop leaves are the cool kids on the block, originating from the soursop tree, also known as graviola or guanabana, which sounds like a fruit that could also be a dance move.
Now, what I love about this fruit in particular is not only is the fruit itself medicinal, but the leaves are also medicinal as well too. The leaves are really good for stomach pain, so they're being used in herbalism for hundreds of years for stomach issues, diarrhea, also for pain overall, anti-inflammatory, and it's also good for calming the nervous system, okay? Has 2 compounds in it that are really good for calming the nervous system. So if you have issues with depression, anxiety, it's good for that as well too. That's just the least to drink as a tea. And I usually drink this as a tea, probably not every morning, but at least every other morning. And they're also really good for high blood pressure as well, just the leaves by themselves.
These leaves are packed with photochemicals like acetogenins, alkaloids, and flavonoids. These aren't just fancy words to impress your friends. They mean serious antioxidant power. Adding soursop leaves to your daily routine might just turn you into a wellness superhero. Soursop leaves aren't just another pretty plant. They've got some serious health chops. Studies by the National Institute of Health suggest that the acetogenins in soursop leaves can throw a wrench in cancer cells' plans, making them a natural ally in the fight against cancer. But that's not all. These leaves can also help manage blood pressure and keep your blood sugar levels in check, which means they could be your new best friend if you're dealing with diabetes or just trying to keep things balanced. Plus, with their antimicrobial properties, soursop leaves are like a tiny green army, ready to fend off infections and boost your immunity. So, how do you harness the power of these leafy wonders? The most popular method is making tea. But if you're not a fan of brewing, they come in capsules and liquid extracts too. As we roll into 2024, consider making soursop leaves a staple in your health routine. Whether you're after their anti-cancer benefits, digestive health perks, or blood sugar regulation, soursop leaves are a compelling and slightly magical addition to any wellness strategy. Cheers to becoming a health superhero. Cape not included. Ginger. It's not just for pepping up your sushi. This spicy contender is throwing punches in the health arena, battling everything from sniffles to, believe it or not, cancer. And for the migraine afflicted, ginger is stepping up as your knight in shining armor. Listen to Dr. Mandel.
We know that ginger is great for nausea, motion sickness. But hold on. Gingerol, it has many antioxidants. This contributes to the effects of antimicrobial, anti-cancer, anti-obesity, antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. This does wonderful things for our body. Eating ginger can cut down on fermentation. This will help bloating, help intestinal gas. This helps acid reflux. It helps many stomach issues. This actually prevents wear and tear in the cells. These antioxidants and the molecules prevent free radicals from overwhelming and conquering our body. So, how do you eat ginger? You can put it in your food, put it in your smoothies. Me, peel it off a little bit, take a little bite. It burns. If you have to chase it a little bit of water, do it. This will keep your body healthy.
Enter Somaptriptan, the reigning champ of migraine meds. But when ginger enters the ring, it proved to be a worthy opponent, delivering a knockout with 90% migraine relief in just 2 hours. Imagine ginger as the ultimate brain bouncer, blocking those pesky prostaglandins that kickstart your headache woes. So next time migraines gatecrash your day, why not call in ginger? Brew it, chew it, and watch it show those migraines the door. Why not risk a little spice for potentially huge relief?
See, Mom, have me doing things every morning like this. That's sea moss. Sea moss have me falling on my knees every morning to check them. And if they hurt, then something is wrong. Sea moss is alive. Sea moss has potassium iodide and potassium bromide. It has natural silica. That's why my bones, I could fall on my knees. Because sea moss is the best thing yet.
First up, traditional medicine says it helps keep Parkinson's at bay. And the immune system? Sea moss might have it covered too. It's like a bouncer at the club, not letting S. enteritis, that's the sneaky salmonella bacteria, through the door. Talking about your thyroid, sea moss is basically a multivitamin superhero in disguise, loaded with iodine to potentially help those with a lazy thyroid catch up. Remember to chat with your doc before turning to sea moss as your go-to thyroid manager, especially if you're already on med. A tiny 2 tablespoon serving packs in a little bit of almost everything you need, from calories to copper. So next time you're near the ocean, maybe give a nod to the mighty sea moss. Noni.
The fruit is known to help with stuff like maintaining digestive and hormonal health, or high blood pressure, and chronic diseases like cancer and diabetes. The fruit could also help with memory and Alzheimer. Applied externally as a poultice, it may help with issues like burns or rashes, muscle aches and pains. The leaves are noted to draw out toxins from the body and blood, while the root is known to help with toothaches. But with anything you consume, too much can be damaging, and noni is no different. So before administering anything, always consult a professional.
Meet Morinda citrifolia, or as its friends call it, noni. This evergreen tree sports large leaves and fruits that look like they could audition for a role in a sci-fi movie. You can find noni chilling in the Pacific Islands, Southeast Asia, Australia, and India. Now, noni is a multitasker. Its roots, stem, bark, leaves, flowers, and fruit have all tried their hands at medicine. According to the National Center for Coordinated and Integrated Health, this fruit juice is particularly ambitious, packing a punch of potassium, vitamin C, vitamin A, and a bunch of other stuff that are the superheroes of cell repair and the immune system's personal trainers.
Is that we pick our noni fruits right here from the tree. After we pick our noni fruit, is to wash it. You wash it about 2 or 3 times because, as you can see, it kind of looks like a pineapple, right? So it has like little pores in it. So we want to make sure that we wash it. Wash our noni fruit several times, and it's all clean, right, and dried, and we have it right here in the pan. Some of them are hard, and some of them are actually quite soft.
People are all over the noni bandwagon. Herbal medicine has sworn that it has been tested.
And this is good information because you can put these remedies in you and you can put them on you, because I was told that if you can't eat something, you shouldn't even be putting it on you, like far as like a lotion or something like that. You should be able to eat whatever you put on you.
And proven to tackle cancer, high blood pressure, boost athletic performance, turn back the clock of aging skin, and even handle diabetes. In the lab, noni has shown off some antioxidant, immune stimulating, and even tumor fighting moves. Burdock root, the underdog superfood.
Let's make some burdock root juice. So we have 4 inches of burdock root, 1 pomegranate, and about 3 cups of red grapes. Now, the only prep required for this recipe is the deseeding of the pomegranate. Now, this simple 3-ingredient juice recipe is packed with nutrition. But let's talk about the burdock root. Now, burdock root has been used for centuries in holistic medicine to treat a variety of conditions. It helps to remove toxins from the blood. It may inhibit some types of cancer and can treat skin issues. Now, this is going to give us over 20 ounces of juice. All right, get your juice on.
Burdock root might not be a rock star in every grocery store, but in Southeast Asia, it's a legend. Loved in Japan and Taiwan for its unique aroma and stellar nutrition, this root is now gaining fans worldwide. So what's so special about burdock? It's packed with inulin, great for digestion, antioxidant polyphenols, cell superheroes, and anti-inflammatory powers that even superheroes would envy. Scientists have been busy with their rat studies. Those little guys get all the attention. Rats on a high-fat diet who got daily burdock extract shots lost weight and lowered their cholesterol. In another study, rats with induced ulcers saw their wounds shrink and inflammation drop thanks to burdock. China's Fengjiang and Peijiang are burdock central, with Fengjiang known as the hometown of burdock. They produce tons of it, literally. Burdock is a kitchen all-star. Pickled, boiled, in salads, stir fries, or soups. It even shows up in teas, cakes, sauces, wine, and washing liquid. So next time you're cooking, invite burdock to the party. It's the root with the most. Stinging nettle. Stinging nettle, Urtica dioica L. Might sound like a plant to avoid, but it's actually a wild herbaceous perennial with a lot to offer. Commonly found in Europe, Asia, North Africa, and North America, stinging nettle is a multi-purpose crop that's often overlooked. Did you know you can eat it? Young leaves can be transformed into delicious curries, herb soups, and sour soups. The roots and leaves have impressive medicinal properties too. The root can help with urinary issues linked to benign prostate hyperplasia, and the leaves are used to treat arthritis, rheumatism, and allergic rhinitis. Packed with fiber, minerals, vitamins, and antioxidant compounds like polyphenols and carotenoids.
Because it is packed. And when I say packed, it is loaded with nutrients And also, I love all of the benefits of stinging nettle as well. It's anti-inflammatory. It's good as used as a pain reliever as well too. It helps with enlarged prostates for men, and it also is loaded with iron as well too. In my iron supplement, that's one of the key ingredients is the stinging nettle.
This plant is a nutritional powerhouse. This plant isn't just good for general health. It offers specific benefits for women too. Its astringent properties can relieve unpleasant premenstrual symptoms like cramping and bloating, reduce menstrual blood flow, ease menopausal transitions, and help prevent excessive bleeding. Plus, it can boost milk production and make breastfeeding more comfortable. Hot tea. Nothing says get well soon like a steaming cup of hot tea. Hot tea
Salute to my good brother Blue. Peace, brother. Thanks for tapping in.
is fantastic for clearing out mucus and soothing sore throats, but beware of caffeine as it can dehydrate you. Opt for caffeine-free teas loaded with natural ingredients to ease sinus pressure. Plus, they're packed with polyphenols, which are tiny superheroes providing antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antibacterial, and antifungal benefits. Honey, sweet, sticky, and full of antimicrobial goodness. Honey is your throat's best friend. It's a natural soother for sore throats and can be mixed into warm water, milk, or tea. But remember, honey is for the big kids only. No honey for children under a year old, as it can be a choking hazard. Avocados. Hippocrates once said, "Let food be thy medicine, and medicine be thy food." And boy, was he onto something. Avocados are high in fat, but it's the good kind, monosaturated fat that's great for your health. These creamy fruits are easy to eat, loaded with vitamins, minerals, and fiber, and they help decrease inflammation while giving your immune system a boost. So go ahead, smash into some avo on toast, and feel those sniffles start to fade away. Eat up, feel better, and remember, a little humor and a lot of healthy food can turn that cold around. Our bodies are like tiny miracle workers. Yep, with the right foods, they can restore, renew, and heal themselves. Imagine that. Feed your body good stuff, and it might just tackle cancer.
The real reason why Dr. Sebi was silenced. Now, this is a must-see.
If we eat something that God didn't make, we are running the risk of disease. Then we're going to be angry, like I were at only 30.
Now, what Dr. Sebi gave us, what he taught us, and what he gave us, it really threatened the market. Those who wanted to keep us coming to the doctor. Now, doing away with the symptoms, the pain is temporary, but you're still sick. And you're doing what Malcolm X said, suffering peacefully. It's like a Novocaine, taking away the pain. But a cure ends the deal with the doctor. And you don't have to go back to the doctor if you're cured. So when we go to the doctor and they tell us to take this and take that, that's a temporary fix, not even a remedy. Because if we receive the remedy, then we'll conclude our business with the doctor. So they want to keep us coming back. So they'll prescribe this for us, they'll prescribe that for us. And it doesn't necessarily make us well. Sometimes, it's served to your detriment to go see a doctor because all they do is give us drugs.
30 years of age.
I'm going to give you something really fast. When I wake up in the morning, in order for me to maintain my knees in good shape, I can fall on my knees. What about AIDS? He want to know where the mucus. I said, Rhonda, have you been to an AIDS ward? She said, yes. I said, what is it that the AIDS spits up every 5 minutes? She said, mucus. Where is the mucus?
Whether it's the food labeled heart healthy at the supermarket or the all-natural goodies that promise to boost your health, big health companies are selling lies under the promise of a better life. But you won't find yourself falling for their tricks if you listen to Dr. Sebi.
He offered cures for incurable diseases. He offered hope and life.
Dr. Sebi
had brought so many levels of healing to our community. He, like many other could have for surely been a target.
Meet the man who's single-handedly taken on the lonely fight of exposing the food industry. Born in Honduras in 1933, Sebi moved to the United States. He came to the Promised Land in hopes of treating his diabetes, obesity, impotence, and asthma. But modern medicine closed its doors on him. However, instead of feeling defeated, Dr. Sebi met a herbalist in Mexico who apparently succeeded in giving Sebi another shot at life.
Good God. I said, of course I do. He said, well, we have to take it up a notch. You have to deliver yourself. When you deliver yourself to God, you can only do those things and eat those things that God made. He said, young man, please, you have all these diseases. You need to stop eating. He took me away from meat. He took me away from all of the things that we think are good. They're not.
And just like that, Sebi became a champion of health. He dedicated himself to studying a healthier way to live life and spread his message to the masses. His secret, an alkaline and plant-based diet. But how does it work? For context, Dr. Sebi's teachings are based on his personal experiences. He didn't have a white coat or a diploma to solidify his stance. Yet, Dr. Sebi made a lot of headway when it came to uncovering the true workings of a disease. He believed that mucus and acidity were responsible for causing every illness in the book.
There's only one disease. The judge said, what is it? I said, you already know. I said, Rana, when someone has sinusitis, what is obstructing the nasal passage? She said, mucus. And when another has bronchitis, what is obstructing the bronchial tubes? She said, mucus. And when another has pneumonia, what's covering the cells of the lungs? She said, mucus. She said, and what about AIDS? He want to know where the mucus.
Based on that, the food we eat falls into two categories: food that can remove toxins from the body and make it more alkaline, and food that makes the body more acidic. Dr. Sebi believed a plant-based diet.
And we wonder why we have childhood sickness when we're fed milk twice a day in school. And we wonder why we had childhood sickness, because we're given milk during breakfast, we're given milk during lunch, when we should have been given juice, natural juice, and that would have prevented childhood sickness.
Diet could help you achieve exactly this. He asked people to abandon animal-based products completely. Remember, alkaline foods are all foods that have a pH greater than 7. But why would you make such a drastic change in the first place? Well, that's why Dr. Sebi believed it's important to understand the truth about the food we eat. Our tables may be full, and we may have a hard time getting around after eating. But wait an hour or two, and chances are you'll start feeling hungry again. So you'll eat again, and before you know it, you'll be caught in a vicious cycle where you're constantly eating and gaining weight. However, Dr. Sebi wanted people to realize something important. When you get hungry, only 1 hour after eating a meal, your body is not telling you to stuff down more food. Instead, it's telling you that the food you're eating is not nutritious and that you need to make a change.
The more you eat, the body keeps saying, I'm still hungry. And you eat some more, and I'm still hungry. You eat some more, and I'm still hungry. And you begin to buy these larger dresses without realizing that your body is talking to you. It is telling us you are hungry.
Dr. Sebi was right on the nose with this one. Modern food is nothing but a mix of unhealthy amounts of refined carbohydrates and artificial chemicals without any of the nutrients. So what do? Give up food? Of course not. Instead, you make better choices when it comes to the food you're putting in your body. According to Dr. Sebi, nature is the way to go.
But if you eat 2 ounces of something natural, you will feel the energy immediately. Why? Because it will assimilate. Assimilation means it's going to go and digest with you, become one with you.
This also explains why some of us feel tired all the time, despite fueling up. In this case, the best thing you can do is not eat for 90 days. It may sound like the worst advice in the world, but wait till you hear out Dr. Sebi's reasoning. According to him, the food you're eating is poison, which has in fact been proven. Several studies have concluded that highly processed foods, like canned foods, boxed meals, and pre-cooked meats, contain a long list of additives, sodium, preservatives, trans fat, and artificial ingredients that may slow you down. So you might as well not eat in the first place, because considering how harmful today's food is, the best thing you can do for yourself is go hungry.
And 90 days later, I didn't have any disease. I didn't eat anything. I believe what he said. He said, don't eat for 90 days. All of you would say, what? Don't eat for 90 days? Then how am I going to live? How are you going to live? The stuff you eat is killing you. So if you just stop eating it, that's a plus. What is a good breakfast? 3 glasses of water or 4. Why? Because that's electrical.
The same goes for vitamins. Many of us stock up on all kinds of vitamins, believing that they'll turn our lives around. But the truth is that they are yet another scam advertised by Big Pharma for the sake of lining up their pockets. He bases his argument around the fact that these artificially produced vitamins are fundamentally different from the actual food that our body needs.
A vitamin? What do you mean by a vitamin? This is made in a scientific way, a laboratory. We make vitamins. But sir, could I ask the question, is it a fact that the human body is electrical? Yes. Well, if we are to feed and nourish an electric body, should the substance be dead or electrical? It has to be electrical. This is affinity. Wow. This is chemical affinity. Body cannot accept a substance if it's dead. It has to be alive, just like you. Well, are vitamins alive? And if they are alive, a vitamin must necessarily have so many electrons per atom. I did not leave my environment to take that of another because I am from the jungle. So as we go to the jungle, we find that we didn't have to know about science in food. But today, you have to know about protein. You have to know about enzymes. You have to know about vitamins. But as we put these things on the board, and we would see that that was also a trick.
But you need to put something in your body. Well, here's what Dr. Sebi chose to eat. He discovered something called the God food. He emphasized the need to consume iron in the form of food that God made. Think of yourself as Popeye munching down on spinach.
I was fortunate that at 30, I met someone that introduced me to food, the God food. So I got iron in large quantities, and that is the mineral that is consistent with us, the black people. Iron. The doctors tell you that you're not supposed to take iron because it would bind you. He is 100% right, providing the iron is ferrosulfate. It will bind you. But if it is the iron that God made that we use in our compound, it gives you energy. It makes you, hey, I could do more work and I'm not tired. Well, of course, the body needs energy. And you could only get energy from the substance that God made. Not from aloe vera, not from comfrey, not from peppermint, golden seal, garlic. These are all man-made products.
He also argues that the only reason people fall sick is because there's been a violation. God created us out of natural substances like carbon. And so, according to Dr. Sebi, we have been programmed to consume natural things. But what happens when we break this fundamental rule? When we stuff our body full of additives and preservatives? Well, that's when we fall sick. And though it may sound like Dr. Sebi might be stretching his words, the truth is that this supposed violation comes at the cost of us being stressed and being poisoned. So think about it. Are you willing to make that bet?
Bird doesn't get sick. Elephant doesn't get sick. He needs no vet. The lion doesn't need a vet. Neither is a giraffe or any of the natural animals. Why do we get sick?
If your answer is no, then welcome to the other side. You have successfully broken free from the hold of the food industry. And now that you have crossed over to the other side, you can start your journey by eating healthy. Where do you start though? Well, you can start with sea moss. Dr. Sebi was a big fan of sea moss. You see, as the seasons change, most of us end up suffering from weak knees. Once you find it difficult to start climbing the stairs, chances are you'll end up with the doctors who'll hook you up with some meds, and that would be the end of it. But not Dr. Sebi. Even at the age of 82 years, this man was wowing audiences with his physical fitness. Watch him fall to his knees without wincing in pain.
That's sea moss. Sea moss have me falling on my knees every morning to check them, and if they hurt, then something is wrong. Sea moss is alive. Sea moss is not.
His secret? Sea moss. According to Dr. Sebi, sea moss is an excellent resource of all the important salts that you need to make your bones strong. And if you're impressed by his falling to his knees, well, wait until you hear about his weight loss journey. At one point, the herbalist weighed around 291 pounds, but he was able to make drastic changes.
1 pound. Now, I only weigh 120. That's all I weigh, 120 pounds. And trust me, I haven't felt this good in my whole entire life.
How did he manage to do that when losing weight is the biggest problem for most of us? Well, Dr. Sebi realized the culprit in disguise. Once he did, he switched to using plants like Cusca and Teosinte, which didn't contain any starch or glucose.
What I've done was to discontinue anything that had glucose. Glucose is the underlying enemy. Whenever you indulge in glucose, it would be difficult to lose fat. Cusca is a plant that the Maya used to use, and they used another one known as the Teosinte. I eat those plants. Those plants does not have starch or glucose. You will look at your body losing weight and you're going to get frightened.
And if you think that Dr. Sebi is selling a dream, well, his own life is living proof of how you can turn your life around by making the right choices. He was impotent at 32, but once he started eating right, he was able to become a father at 82. Dr. Sebi also emphasizes the importance of feeding babies their mother's milk. According to him, it's the way God designed things to be, and when we choose to give our kids cow milk or formula, we're essentially going away from the natural order of things, and that path doesn't lead to the best results.
When we believe that the milk of a cow, an animal, is sufficient to afford nutrition to a human body, then one has to question that, because I am not an animal. That's common sense, I think. Animals produces milk for animal babies. Human beings, women, females, produces milk for human babies. But something happened to us that we elect to do just the opposite. Instead of us giving our babies the milk of a female human, we elect and chose to give our children the milk of an animal.
At the end of the day, Dr. Sebi believed herbs and the natural way of life to be the answer for most diseases. And he had good reason too. What did our ancestors use to treat disease before modern medicine came along? In fact, what did Hippocrates use to cure disease? We're pretty sure there was no ibuprofen back then, except of course for the natural painkillers. If our ancestors were able to live a healthy life without turning to chemicals and whatnot, why can't we do that with herbs?
Mr. Hippocrates, 365 years before Christ was even born, this man was healing every disease known to man, establishing the school of medicine known today. You take the Hippocratic Oath. So when you take the Hippocratic Oath, Your Honor, did Hippocrates use herbs or chemicals? She said, herbs again. Bible says herbs. Hippocrates used herbs. I said, Your Honor, last question, and my case would rest. Is it a fact that the human body is carbon-based? She said, yes. And that the substance that's going to complement the human body has to be carbon-based because the human body only accepts a substance through the process of chemical affinity. Electric body, electric food. She said, right, carbon-based. Herbs again. I said, I rest my case.
And let's not forget that modern medicine makes...
And he won his case in New York also with that testimony. He won his case. Landslide.
Makes money off our misery. The medicines that are meant to cure us end up doing more damage than good. And before you realize it, you've signed up for health problems for life. Not to mention that modern medications promote dependence. You take a painkiller and suddenly you're popping pills nonstop. Our ancestors used natural remedies to take care of the flu, but most of us rush to the nearest pharmacy to stock up on antibiotics when we feel a cold coming on. The result? These antibiotics become ineffective with time, and we're left to deal with more serious diseases all on our own. By following these principles, Dr. Sebi claims to have cured Michael Jackson's son. According to him, MJ's son was suffering from a tumor for 5 years. While doctors had labeled his case as a lost cause, Dr. Sebi boldly opened his doors to him and was able to heal him using his way of medicine.
One man, this man is named Michael Jackson. So Michael Jackson saw this recovery. He sent for his son. His son had a tumor on his frontal lobe that was hurting him for 5 years. Omar, his only biological son, came from Norway to Aspen. Michael said, I want you to treat my son. I just came back from Guinea and I brought an herb known as Sia. I put the herb in a bag and I told the boy to inhale, and the boy sneezed 52 times. On the 53rd, the tumor came out at the door, right when he was going out the door.
This was all possible because he chose to ignore the lies big pharma and food companies were trying to sell him and focused on finding the truth for himself. And so, he was able to crack the secret to the best possible way to live a life. If you pick up his nutritional guide, you only have to eat the foods listed in the guide. You'll have to drink 1 gallon of natural spring water daily. As for what to avoid, that includes canned and seedless fruits, animal products, hybrid foods, alcohol, and a microwave. But the important question is it as beneficial as Dr. Sebi claimed it to be? Well, plant-based diets have been known to be good for health. According to a 2022 review, a high dietary acid load is responsible for a wide range of diseases, including heart disease, kidney disease, and type 2 diabetes. Meanwhile, vegetarian and vegan diets effectively reduce a person's dietary acid load. Dr. Sebi might have been right about the power of herbs in losing weight since, according to a 2020 systematic review, plant-based diets help with weight loss to a certain degree. Meanwhile, a 2019 study concluded that a plant-based diet can alter the microbiome in your body to reduce the chances of disease. And so, Dr. Sebi's been kind enough to share his health secrets with the rest of us. His herbal mixtures were available under the name Dr. Sebi's Cell Food, and it's changed a lot of lives. However, Dr. Sebi didn't exactly have the smoothest journey. His mission to let everyone in on the secret of health had to be put on pause as he dealt with legal problems. Back in 1987, Dr. Sebi was taken to court for practicing medicine without a license. But when it came down to it, the state couldn't prove that he had been diagnosing people. And so Dr. Sebi walked away without taking any hits. He ended up in court again. This time he was being sued by the state of New York for consumer fraud and had to cough up $900 for making disease-specific claims. Once he cleared those obstacles, the skies remained clear for a short while before the storm hit. He was arrested in Honduras for money laundering and had to spend the last part of his life in prison, where he died from pneumonia in 2016. It's a pitiful end to someone who dedicated his life to serving humanity. But step back for a second and look at the big picture. Some believe that the charges against Dr. Sebi were hardly that serious. Instead, they were fabricated to tarnish his reputation and to remove him from the mic.
Most case scenario, they forbid us to get out clean. They forbid us, to our legacy for this man to die with a clean legacy. There's something that they forbid. And the fact that his claims were substantiated in court, these charges was trumped up on the brother, and they locked him away, and he wouldn't eat their foods, what they were trying to give him as food. He wouldn't eat it.
Mic stand so that he could stop spreading his message.
There is a group of people who do not want everyone to be here.
We have cures for a lot of things, but that's not what keeps America going.
Even if that's true, the question is why? Why would someone feel like taking out Dr. Sebi when all he did was sell herbs? Well, the answer's simple. Dr. Sebi posed a significant threat to the entire food and agriculture mafia.
Exactly.
His way of living relied on people buying their lies. If people started learning about all the poisons packaged into the delicious treats that we seem to go crazy over, and made the informed decision to switch to a plant-based diet that Dr. Sebi recommended, there's a high probability of industries losing a huge chunk of customers. No customers means no sales, which means no money. And that's a big no-no in everyone's books. So what's the solution? Take out the man who poses a threat to the system. However, big companies seem to be forgetting one thing. Dr. Sebi was just...
And then take out the man who was going to do the documentary on Dr. Sebi. Our brother, Nipsey Hussle. Both of them gone now. Take out the man who had the cures without all the chemicals, and then take out the man who was going to show this man in his real light.
Just as serious about spreading his message as they were about bagging millions. Despite the obstacles before him, the herbal doctor continued to move forward. Though he may be long gone, his videos continue to trend on social media platforms, bringing change one person at a time.
He was all about his people, but he wanted to help all people, and he did help all people. And what he did, he just stripped down their diets and put them in environments.
The efforts to prevent Dr. Sebi's words from spreading to the general public even went as far as stopping Nick Cannon from making a documentary about his life. I guess the herbalist posed a significant threat to the mafia for them to take such serious measures.
Now, if they stopped our brother Nipsey Hussle, he was stopped by being assassinated, and then Nick Cannon wanted to take and do the documentary, and they stopped him. See, the propagandists want us listening to them, and they act as if the people don't know this. The people know why they don't want Nick Cannon to do the documentary, because it threatens the industry. Anything that threatens the industry, they'll trump up charges or they'll outright get rid of you. That's how it goes. That's how these people do things.
It's not a small feat by any means, but my goal is still to be done with it this year. So it's but you know, it's funny because you just see the ignorance online where even like where people are like, oh, Nick Cannon's scared, he cancels the Dr. Sebi documentary because he's scared for his life. Like, come on, man. Like,
However, Dr. Sebi was well prepared for what was to come if he decided to take the road not taken. He made headlines when he boldly claimed to have cured AIDS. And that's when he knew that they were going to come for him sooner or later, which is exactly what ended up happening. Still, Dr. Sebi's words are alive and well. The obstacles he faced are proof that he was onto something worth trying.
The sad part is you have one of the Negroes among us that'll come out and say that he was a fraud, pushing the propagandas of our enemies and, you know, misrepresenting his legacy. Our people have a problem. We use and we take the narrative of our open and consistent enemy, and we got to stop seeing each other through the eyes of our enemy. And most people who hate themselves see our people how they see themselves, and that needs to stop. Now, somebody will come and discredit this brother like they discredit everybody else who have stood and acted on our behalf. This man stood and acted on our behalf, and he gave his life for it.
Will you be making a switch to Dr. Sebi's diet? Let us know in the comment section.
Now we're going to go to Why You Shouldn't Eat Seedless Fruits by Dr. Bobby Price. I was looking for fruits today, couldn't find nothing seedless.
Greetings, it's Dr. Bobby Price, your plant-based pharmacist and nutritionist, also author of Education Over Medication. And today I'm going to be explaining to you why you shouldn't eat fruits that don't have seeds in them. And I know that I get that question a lot in my DMs, and especially for the people who have read my book. I have an entire chapter dedicated to sort of explaining the breakdown on how you shouldn't eat hybridized fruit or fruits without seeds. The chapter is called The Seeds of Deception. So if you have my book, Education Over Medication, make sure you check out this chapter if you want a more in-depth explanation. But the way I'm going to explain it to you is, first, I want you to understand why having a seed in fruit is so important. And then secondarily, I'm going to explain to you why today there are so many fruits in the market that don't have seeds in them. Okay? So that's what we're going to go through today. And I hope you sort of get the drift of why it's so important not to eat those type of fruits and to demand.
Like us, like all of us, we were once seeds. Anything that don't have a seed don't have an origin. So it was made artificially. Everything has a seed. If it don't have a seed, it has no origin. And I don't understand how any of us can eat that. I was in the supermarket today and couldn't find no seedless grapes, green or red. I'm looking at watermelon, seedless. Everything is seedless. So I just got out of there.
And we have fruits that have seeds in them in our markets, our local markets today. Okay, so let's first start with the idea of why is it so important to have a seed in fruit, okay? And the way I'm gonna sort of break it down to you is this. The life cycle, whether you're talking about fruits or whether you're talking about us as humans, all originates with a seed. And what I mean by that is
exactly
this. A man has a seed, and that's called sperm, okay? A woman has a seed, that is an egg, okay? Without a seed, they are both infertile. They're not capable of producing offspring. Okay. And so it helps you understand from a life cycle standpoint how their seed is important to humans first. Secondarily, if you look at fruits, fruits all begin with a seed. Okay. And so let me sort of break that down to you. A seed goes in the ground, and we're talking about the original seed, thousands and thousands of years ago, goes into the ground, grows, creates a mango tree. Okay, a mango seed creates a mango tree. That mango tree then creates fruit. That fruit is called mango. Okay, that mango, if a human comes by, eats it, or an animal comes by and eats it, takes it off a mile or two away from the tree, drops that seed on the ground, it could eventually go into the ground, create another tree, and now it has offspring. Okay, if a human or an animal doesn't come by, the benefit is that seed drops to the ground. The seed has a lot of the nutrients in it, a lot of the minerals, vitamins, trace elements, all of those things that power our biological system. So when it drops to the ground, because it's not eaten, at that point, it will go to the ground, nourish the ground even more. And now that tree will be stronger and healthier and grow and produce healthier mangoes. So you can see that life cycle. No matter if somebody comes by and picks off that mango or that mango drops to the ground, it will help to produce more offspring. Okay. That seed has a lot of nourishment in it. So when you have a fruit that has seed, in many cases, a lot of the seeds have a tremendous amount of nourishment and a tremendous amount of fiber. Okay, so now we understand why it's so important to have that seed connection, because it connects us with the life cycle. It connects life to food. And as we always say, we have to eat to live. Okay, so now let's explain why there aren't that many fruits in the market that have seeds in them. And like I said before, like going into the market today and finding grapes that have seeds in them is essentially like going into the market and finding a unicorn. I'll go into the farmer's market, get my grapes that have seeds, post them, and I'll get 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 likes. And everybody's commenting, asking me, where the hell did you get grapes with seeds in them?
Exactly.
That's how, that's how much we've sort of trended away from what is natural. And what I mean by that is when I was growing up as a kid, I never had grapes or watermelon or any fruit that didn't have seeds in them, but today is very common. So it's been a short 20-year period where we walked away from having things that are natural that have seeds in them. So now let's sort of explain or get into why so many fruits today don't have seeds in them. Well, initially, it probably started off as this process of making things more convenient, meaning if I can get you watermelon that doesn't have seeds in it, then you can eat it more readily and not have to avoid the seeds, because many people do that. Same thing with grapes. Okay. Now, so it probably started off as a hybridization process, but eventually what happened was genetically modified companies like Monsanto came into the picture and created this terminator gene that could go inside of the DNA of fruits and actually remove the seed from the fruit so that the seeds don't grow inside of the fruit. Now, that may look like in the beginning to be a marvel of genius when it comes to adding more convenience so that we don't have to worry about the seeds. But here's where the plot thickens, and now we understand what those type of agro companies were doing, agrochemical companies were doing. What they did was they removed the seed from the fruits, but this is how they sort of removed the farmer from the equation. Now the farmer, instead of using the seeds from the fruits that he was growing, because that's how it works, as I explained before, you can literally take the seed of a fruit, put it in the ground and grow a tree. That tree will then produce fruit. Like I said, that's the life cycle of fruit. But now you have this terminator gene created by Monsanto. It now can go into the DNA of the fruit, remove out that whole sequence for creating a seed. Now you have fruit that doesn't have a seed, and now that fruit can't be used to actually create more fruit because it doesn't have a seed. The same thing like I was mentioning, when a man doesn't have a seed in his body, he's infertile. Okay. And even when they created the hybridized versions of these fruits,
that didn't have the terminator gene, in many cases, these hybridized versions, you couldn't take the seeds in them and then put them in the ground. They wouldn't produce an offspring because they were infertile as well. Okay, so now you have this company that's removing the seed, and now the farmer has to now go buy more seeds from the agrochemical company. This is how they essentially remove the farmer from the equation, and now the farmer has to pay the agrochemical company for seeds that nature was producing in the first place. Now, what's really dangerous about that whole process is this. Whenever you make genetically modified foods, and again, I talk about this in my chapter, Seeds of a Deception, in my book, Education Over Medication, where I break it down very succinctly. When you remove the seeds from the fruit and you take it through this genetically modified process, you have to spray it with a lot of pesticides and herbicides because nature will attack something that isn't nature. Okay, real recognized real, so to speak. Okay, so nature will go in and attack this plant that's genetically modified. You'll see all kind of weeds, you'll see all kind of insects.
And that's when they put that coating on it. It's like a wax coating that shines it, preserves it, and makes it look like it's fresh, but it's not.
You'll see everything attacking this. So they have to spray it heavily with chemicals like glyphosate, which is known to be a carcinogen and cause cancer. As a matter of fact, when you see the people spraying these genetically modified plants, they're all in a hazmat suit. That's how dangerous the chemicals are. And they're spraying the fruit with that. And many of us are under the impression that we can just simply wash it off and it'll be fine. But that's
just imagine someone spraying fruit with a hazmat, suit on, and it's supposed to be something natural for human consumption, as opposed to a crop duster that usually goes and sprays water over the fruit. Things have definitely changed for the worse.
That's actually not true. We know that those type of chemicals not only get on the skin of the fruit, but they get inside of the fruit as well. And so that's why it's so important not to eat these type of fruits that don't have seeds in them, because not only do they not have the nutritional value that the original fruit had with seed, they also can produce things like cancer because they have carcinogenic biochemicals in them that will actually cause you to develop cancer. Okay, so I hope you have enjoyed the information today. I hope you understand a little bit why it's so important to eat fruits with seeds in them. And so if you enjoy the information, make sure you like, share, hit that notification button, and share this with people who need to get this information as well. So until the next time.
Now we're going to go to Monsanto, the one he was just mentioning, the company that
Genetically
owns
modified organisms, or GMOs, have been the subject of controversy pretty much since their inception.
Monsanto. Monsanto is the company that owns the world's food supply. The man he was just mentioning.
More recently, they've become sort of a buzzword for outraged social media experts, but don't let these Twitter crusaders fool you. GMOs are in fact a very serious topic. They have an impact on everyone. Take the US, for example, where the most produced crop by far is corn. In 2014, over 361 million tons of corn were cultivated, more than all other crops combined. That corn is then used to make a variety of different products. Not just food, you find corn derivatives in Coke, milk, toothpastes, aspirin, and varnish. Corn is also the most popular animal feed, and when you consider the fact that 85% of all US corn is genetically modified, you'll realize that GMOs are actually all around you. That's why this week on
Now that's something I just found out as I'm watching this. 85% of corn in the United States is genetically modified. Didn't know that. Thanks.
Behind the Business, we'll be taking a look at the company that started it all, the world's largest seed company, Monsanto. Monsanto was originally founded as a chemical company in 1901 by John Francis Queeny. Queeny was in his 40s by that point, and he had had a pretty rough start to his life. The Great Chicago Fire of 1871 left his family homeless when he was only 12. He had to quit his education in order to start working full-time as an office boy at a wholesale drug firm. Through hard work and dedication, John climbed the ranks of the pharmaceutical industry, and he eventually moved to St. Louis in 1891 as a representative of the Mayer Brothers Drug Company, the largest drug distributor at the time. 5 years later, John married Olga Monsanto, and when he decided to establish a business of his own in 1901, he named his company after her. John established Monsanto in order to produce saccharin, an artificial sweetener that is 300 times sweeter than table sugar and has effectively no nutritional value. Saccharin was first synthesized in 1879, and although it is a wildly popular sugar substitute today, back in the 1900s nobody in the US had even heard of it. Germany had a near monopoly on its production, and there wasn't a single manufacturer in the United States. John's newly established business was the first US saccharin producer, and the American market turned out to be very lucrative. One of his earliest customers was actually the Coca-Cola Company, which still uses saccharin in its popular Diet Cokes. By 1905, John had added 2 more food additives to Monsanto's repertoire, vanillin and coumarin, which up until then were
A lot of people think that they're doing themselves a favor, by drinking diet this and diet that. And the diet, though the regular is bad for you, the diet is a lot worse because of the chemical nature, the saccharin and everything in the diets. So I'm not going to say you might as well go ahead and drink the regular. I say just get off it altogether. But I'm going to tell you that the diet is a lot worse than the regular in any so-called soft drink.
and were also produced only by Germany. In its first decade, Monsanto barely turned a profit because the Germans were constantly undercutting them. When the United States declared war on Germany in 1917, though, all chemical imports were halted, leaving a huge void in the market that Monsanto was more than happy to fill. Its revenue jumped from $81,000 in 1913 to $905,000 in 1919, establishing Monsanto as one of the big US chemical companies. 1919 also marked Monsanto's first steps abroad when it acquired a Welsh chemical producer that made aspirin and rubber catalyzers. This was Monsanto's first big acquisition, but it would definitely not be the last. The 1920s saw Monsanto expand its product range to feature industrial chemicals, the most notable one being polychlorinated biphenyl, or PCB. Now, PCBs can come in various molecular configurations, 209 to be precise, and all of them are very toxic. They're proven carcinogens and pollutants that are resistant to acids and heat and need about 200 days of direct sunlight just to start breaking down. If you're thinking this was some exotic, rarely used chemical, you'd be wrong. PCBs were used as coolants in various electrical devices prior to the 1970s, most notably in power transformers and capacitors. Odds are, if you go to some of the more neglected cities in your state, you'd find transformers with PCB warning labels there. Monsanto was the only US producer of PCBs for almost 50 years before Congress finally.
The same thing that's used to give us electricity in our homes is used for human consumption. This is evil.
And the substance in 1979. Internal documents leaked in 2002 show that Monsanto was well aware of the toxicity of PCBs more than a decade before their eventual ban. In fact, Monsanto's first move at circumventing environmental laws happened all the way back in 1926 when the company incorporated a town in Illinois called, you guessed it, Monsanto. Back then, local jurisdictions were responsible for most environmental laws, and Monsanto the town was very lenient with its regulations, so much so that Monsanto the company built its largest PCB factory there. That town still exists, by the way, but it's called Sauget now, and it has barely 159 residents. The case with PCBs is one of the earliest examples of Monsanto's extreme for-profit culture that has by now become nothing short of an immortal internet meme. The sad thing is that Monsanto's awful reputation is actually pretty well deserved, but you'll see more about that a little bit later. So, by the time the Second World War had started in 1939, Monsanto had established itself as the US military's premier chemical supplier. Their most valuable product at the time was styrene, a compound crucial for the production of synthetic rubber. Interestingly enough, Monsanto was also a large contributor to the Manhattan Project. They were instrumental in the development of the polonium-based initiators used in the 2 atomic bombs dropped on Japan. During the post-war
Salute, peace to my brother Equator 7. Thanks for tapping in. Peace.
decades, Monsanto got into the agriculture business by developing pesticides. Their first one, called dichlorodiphenyl-trichloroethane, or DDT, went into production in 1944 and was banned less than 30 years later due to its extreme toxicity. Another herbicide produced by Monsanto was Agent Orange, which became infamous after the US military used it as a defoliant during Operation Ranch Hand of the Vietnam War. Agent Orange was very effective at destroying the crops of the Viet Cong, but it was so toxic that it also ended up contaminating more than 3 million people and causing 500,000 Vietnamese children to be born with deformities.
And it also did harm to some of the United States soldiers also. I have a personal story about Agent Orange. I'm not going to get into it now, but Agent Orange did a lot of damage to the United States soldiers also.
The early 1970s saw Monsanto make huge progress in the development of LED lights. In fact, Monsanto was the first company to mass produce them, which brought the price of LEDs down from $200 to less than 10 cents apiece. Just a few years later, though, the US government finally cracked down on Monsanto's reckless use of harmful chemicals. The bans on PCBs and several pesticides hurt Monsanto's revenue greatly, and on top of that, several class action lawsuits were initiated that ended up costing hundreds of millions of dollars. In this period of distress, Monsanto's executives decided to shift the company's focus away from chemical production and towards agricultural biotechnology. This transition occurred during the early 1980s, and back then biotechnology was a very young science. Monsanto was early to the party, which gave the company's immense R&D division a head start. In 1983, Monsanto scientists led by Robert Fraley became the first in history to genetically modify plants. This pivotal achievement ushered in a new era for agriculture, the era of GMOs. Now, despite what the armchair experts from Twitter might be telling you, genetically modified crops are not bad in and of themselves. The reason there is such a negative perception of GMOs is that, as has happened numerous times in history, people take a good thing, and out of greed, they take it so far that it eventually becomes a bad thing. GMO crops are a perfect example of this. There are a number of ways to genetically modify a crop without compromising the health of the people who eat it. Some of the most basic ones are shortening the plant's seed-to-seed period or outright pumping up the size of the resulting fruit or vegetable. Monsanto, however, in their quest for ever-increasing yield, took GMO crops to a whole new level. Back in the early 1980s, when Monsanto was faced with a slew of lawsuits and a ban on its best products, they discovered glyphosate, an extremely potent herbicide that saved the company from potential bankruptcy. Monsanto marketed their herbicide under the name Roundup, and in the span of just 2 decades, it became the most widely used herbicide in the United States.
And also it caused cancer, and they had a class action lawsuit against Roundoff when they had to pay billions of dollars to people that it made sick for merely watering their plants.
The reason for its success lies in Monsanto's development of GMO crops. You see, in the past, farmers had to plant their seeds a good deal away from each other. They needed that space in order to till their fields, otherwise weeds would grow around their crops and kill them. When Monsanto developed GMO crops that were resistant to Roundup, however, a whole new avenue of cultivation emerged. Suddenly, farmers could plant their crops much closer together, since they could just dump tons of Roundup directly onto their crops without harming them. As you can imagine, this was a huge increase in crop yield, and combined with the cost reduction of not having to till the land as much, farmers quickly switched to Monsanto's GMO solution. Up until the year 2000, Monsanto was the sole producer of glyphosate due to the patents they held, and it is during this time that the company expanded into the titan that it is today. Roundup was, of course, just the beginning, and since then Monsanto has spent tens of billions into the development of various pesticides and seeds. Last year alone, they spent $1.5 billion on R&D, and these investments have more than paid off. 2 years ago, Monsanto's GMO seeds accounted for 80% of the USA's total corn acreage, and today that number is even higher. One reason for Monsanto's immense success in the seed business is their creative use of patents on their seeds. Farmers who plant Monsanto's GMO seeds are subject to strict rules about what they can actually do with them. They are not allowed, for example, to replant these seeds, nor to sell or share them with anyone else, thus ensuring that Monsanto's revenue remains stable and growing. The language of these rules is so convoluted that farmers could potentially be found liable even in cases when the wind randomly blows Monsanto seeds from a neighbor's farm. To complete its transformation into an agricultural behemoth, in 1997, Monsanto spun off the entirety of its chemical business into a separate company called Solutia. This was Monsanto's attempt at a fresh start, and on their website they even claimed to be a relatively new company that
That's all they do when they get in trouble. They just rebrand the same thing and come back out doing the same exactly thing. Monsanto turn into something else. That's all they do is rebrand.
just happens to share the same name with its polluting predecessor. Of course, this was all for show, as the new Monsanto's executives were the same people that had led the old company for decades. What they did with Solutia was to essentially try to wash their hands off Monsanto's morally questionable past.
Solutia was the solution to Monsanto's when they got in trouble. Solutia was the solution. They just rebranded and they went back to doing the same thing that got them in trouble in the first place under another brand.
Past. Solutia inherited not only the struggling chemical business, but also the majority of litigation relating to Monsanto's PCBs and other industrial pollutants. It probably won't come as a surprise that just 6 years later, Solutia filed for bankruptcy, only to be eventually swallowed up by the Eastman Chemical Company. The new Monsanto, of course, has been incapable of shaking off its bad reputation, but that hasn't stopped its global expansion. Today, it's bigger than ever, with $15 billion of revenue just from last year alone. About half of that money, by the way, came from the sales of the Roundup pesticide and the GMO seeds resistant to it. It's sad how, despite all the boycotting and controversies, Monsanto's products are so ingrained in modern agriculture that there's just no getting rid of them. By all accounts, Monsanto is here to stay, but it's actually very possible that they'll soon stop being an independent company. Germany's pharmaceutical titan Bayer, on which we've also done a video by the way, had been trying to acquire Monsanto for the past 4 months. Just a few days ago, Monsanto accepted a $66 billion all-cash offer, which still needs regulatory approval, sure, but consider this. In the past 14 months, we've seen the mergers of 6 of the biggest companies in the industry, and so far analysts are giving the Bayer-Monsanto merger a 50% chance of going through.
Bayer and Monsanto merged. That's crazy. Someone who makes aspirin teamed up with Monsanto. That's good to know.
Even if the merger fails, though, it's very hard to be optimistic about a Monsanto-free future. From an investment point of view, it would make sense to buy shares of the company that controls the world's food supply, but sometimes it's better to forego revenue in order to actually make the world a better place. Hi there! I hope you liked the video despite the rather questionable nature of the subject. I can tell you that making this video was not easy. I mean, here at Business...
I want to thank everyone for joining me this afternoon, this evening. More to come. Just want to thank Equator 7, Sharon Walker, Big Dog Philly OG, Mr. Blue, Hurricane JW, the true daughter of darkness, relentless. Thank you all for coming through, joining me this evening. More to come. I'm going to stay on this because our health is wealth. And in order for us to be able to be here to fight in a war that has been waged against us, we actually have to, keep ourselves here by, being healthy. Before I go, I want to do a plug-in with my wife's book.
Get your copy of Fire.
Really quick.
It's definitely a must-read. If you enjoy hood books, this one is it. Just like the title of the book, it's officially Fire. Get it on Amazon, paperback or Kindle.
Fire 2, the finale. It's being written now. It's on its way. I will give an update on it upon its completion. But if you haven't gotten Fire, go to Amazon, paperback or Kindle. I'm going to put the link in the comment section. Again, I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. We need to stay healthy. And if some of us who are not healthy, we need to get healthy. We need to eat better. Again, I'm going to leave with this. And I was thinking about that, my brother, Hurricane JW. I might just put that on a shirt. You know, our pantry and our refrigerator can be our nail in our coffin, or it could be our medicine cabinet. We need to consider that. This is your brother Nasir, and this is the Enemy's Public. Like the video if you haven't did it yet. Share. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Peace.